You're listening to the Piano Parent Podcast with Shelley Davis, episode 341. Hey there, and welcome to the Piano Parent Podcast. I'm Shelley Davis, a longtime piano teacher and parent with my husband of 4 mostly musical kids. As parents, we spend so much time trying to encourage and motivate our kids. We wonder if we're doing the best things for them. We second guess our decisions, and we worry if we're going to scar them for life. While you focus on encouraging your kids, I'm here to reassure and inspire you. I'll be here every week with practice tips, inspirational teacher interviews, and musical topics to help you impress your kids with your musical knowledge. Parenting is not for the faint of heart, but it's much easier with support, and you have come to the right place. Good morning, piano parents. I appreciate you tuning in to the podcast today. I know that the summertime can be just as wild and crazy as the busy school year, so that's why I'm bringing back a few short-form episodes this summer. Last year, I called these bite-sized topics, What Would You Do? And you can hear those episodes if you scroll back through your podcast player to number 196 through 303. For this summer of 2023, I'm calling the mini episodes Parenting Do-Overs. With a few of my guests over the past several months after we finished the prepared questions, I surprised them with an unrehearsed question. And you're going to get to hear these guests offer their nitty-gritty, real-life parenting experiences of times they missed the mark and would love to have a do-over. And to be fair, I share a few of my own parenting doozies. I feel like so often on social media and in my interviews with guests, we try to put our best foot forward. And that's as it should be. We want to offer professional, succinct information that will be helpful to listeners. But the reality is, most of my guests are parents just like you. They're in the trenches with busy schedules, trying to keep up with practice routines, dealing with tired and cranky kids, moody teenagers, sometimes dealing with our own personal attitudes. I'm speaking for myself here, but we're all trying to do the best we can. On today's episode, you're going to hear from Stephen Hughes, and I've entitled this Avoiding Misinterpretations. And you're going to hear Stephen's grace with a slight misinterpretation from his younger child, and you're going to hear where I completely blew it. And I hope that through listening to my mistakes and getting insight from Stephen's experience, that will help you make better decisions and maybe feel a little bit better for yourself when you have missed the mark. So here is Stephen Hughes with Avoiding Misinterpretations. You know, Stephen, that this is a podcast for piano parents, and you are a parent, and I'm a parent. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to just blindside you with a question. And I'm trying to think of the right way to word this question. You're getting more curious and more worried as I stall. But I'm wondering if you might have a situation that you would be willing to share with us about a parent do-over. And while you're thinking, it's only fair for me to share a do-over that I have. So I'll tell you mine, and then that will give you time to think about possibly one of yours.
Okay.
All right. So here's my parent do-over. And maybe mine has more to do with just a family or a spouse do-over. Last weekend, my family was at a strongman competition for my oldest son. He was able to deadlift 610 pounds. I was so proud of him. But it was an all-day event, and so we got to be about lunchtime. So Austin and Tracy, whom you have met, my 2 youngest kids, and I went to do a lunch run. We were going to go through a fast food place, bring back lunch for everybody. And while we were gone, my husband called Tracy, and he was wanting to know when were we going to be back. I immediately went into defense mode, like, we just left. What are you talking about? When are we going to be back? It's lunch, and there's a crowd in front of us, and there's a line, and we'll be back when we're back. And I was very why are you checking up on me? And I talked to him later and he said, that's why I called Tracy. I didn't call you. And as we're driving back after we've gotten our food, I'm just kind of ranting, trying to sort out my feelings so I don't get too mad at my husband in a public setting. Austin, my son, is trying to talk me off the ledge. Mom, he just misses you. When you're away from him, the time just seems to drag on. I mean, he's really putting on the sugar. Turns out the only reason my husband called was he knew that we were going to be bringing back a lot of food and he was going to meet us outside to help carry everything in. So I completely blew that. I completely overreacted. And if I had a do-over, I wouldn't bark at Tracy, who she just innocently fielded a call, and I wouldn't have been so defensive. And so anyway, I completely messed up that situation.
Yeah.
Do you have a parent do-over that will make other parents and make me feel better about myself?
Well, I'm sure I've got plenty. The last one I'm thinking about was, well, currently my son has found his assertive self and
Yes.
times 10. And so right now, like sorting through, figuring out emotions, and then but also realizing he turned 5, so he's not a toddler anymore. He's a person
Right.
that has feelings and thoughts and all of that. Well, probably earlier this week, and this is not just one time it's happened. So I walked in maybe from after teaching, like maybe in between lessons. I think it was to get lunch. Walked in, and then there was some bickering going on. And then I asked my daughter what had happened, and then she told me. And she was probably exaggerating a little bit, but she's defending herself. And I failed to ask my son
Oh,
what had
yes.
happened, and he got really upset about that. Not just upset that I wasn't listening to just his version, just letting him speak his voice. Because
Yes.
come to find out, he was really nagging on her, and she probably reacted in a way that exacerbated the situation for sure.
Right.
But I didn't give him the chance just to speak his voice. And so this is a big thing we're going through right now, and it's happening quite frequently. So we're trying to figure out the best way to handle it.
That's
Yeah.
so good because I love how you set it up that he's growing. I mean, before
Hmm.
he didn't have much of a vocabulary, but now
Hmm.
he can speak. He can evaluate the situation on his own and wants to be heard. And I love the idea too that you, as a parent, the way you parent him will continue to transition as he gets older. He gains more independence. Then your parenting style will change as they
Hmm.
grow. So I appreciate you for being a willing participant.
Of course. I had to really think about that. That was because that's not like something that I talk about it with my wife. We discuss those things, but never really share that with anybody else. So,
Yes, but I
yeah.
think it's helpful, and we
Hmm.
all we all make mistakes. I've had to apologize to my children. I apologize to Tracy and to my husband. I'm sorry, I misinterpreted. Thank you
Right.
for trying to help. I'm sorry I blew it, but
Yeah.
and we give each other grace, and we learn, and we keep going. And
Hmm.
thank you so much.
Okay. Awesome.
I really do appreciate Stephen being transparent and letting us have a little peek into his personal life. And it is a big deal as our children grow and mature and just change. Their personalities start to develop. As parents, we have to adjust our parenting style and how we communicate with our children. This conversation with Stephen took place after the second part of his interview with me back in episode 304 and 305. He came on the show to talk about specifically pianists who might be given jazz charts from maybe their band director or the worship director at church, and how to adapt their playing style and how to interpret all of those extended jazz chords that seem to be a little intimidating. So if you're interested in that, go back. I'll have the 2 episodes. It was a great conversation that we split into 2 different weeks, but I'll link those up in today's show notes, and you can access all of that at pianoparentpodcast.com/341. As always, I appreciate you listening today, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. And that's the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for hanging around all the way to the end. If you haven't done so already, this would be a great time for you to hit the subscribe button. If you're listening through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever your favorite podcast player is, hit subscribe so you will be the first to receive next week's episode. I would love to connect with you. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Piano Parent Podcast, and you could just email me, Shelley at pianoparentpodcast.com.